Paperlike, the highly marketed screen protector / paper texture for your iPad. It's quickly become the go-to accessory for anyone who draws or takes notes on their iPad. But the real question is this product as good as it sounds, and is it as good as what Paperlike says that it is? You've seen all the ads, all the paid reviews, but what is Paperlike really like? Whether you personally love or hate the idea of a product like this, there is no denying of the pros and cons that something like this can offer. A paper-like feel, response, and sound might just sound like the best thing since the iPad itself. And that's why I'm making this video today. As someone who's used Paperlike extensively over the last few years, I want to help you make the most informed decision you can. I'll go in depth about Paperlike, I'll share some pros, some cons, and I'll even talk about some tips and tricks that you might be able to implement if you decide to buy this product in the end. All right, let's not waste any time. Let's jump straight into it. Which is better, drawing on glass or drawing on a paper-like texture? This is a super hard question to answer, and this is something that's going to come down to personal preference. To be honest, I actually have no problem at all with drawing straight on glass like the iPad was designed. I think if you put enough time into something, you just learn to adapt to that particular way of using that product, and I personally love the glass feel of the iPad. But Paperlike was something that definitely intrigued me, and it was something that I definitely wanted to try out, see what it was all about, and give it my own take on it. And personally, Paperlike is something that I do use on my iPad currently. So to answer that question, glass or Paperlike, it's really going to come down to what you want, and it's going to come down to how you use your iPad. If you do a lot of drawing, a lot of note taking, Paperlike is an amazing product, and it definitely will help with some elements of doing those things on a regular basis. But if you do use your iPad for primarily video content, i.e. watching movies, Netflix, whatever it is, this product will affect the screen a little bit, and it will give you a little bit less of a saturated look, and it will dull your color just a little bit. Personally, as a digital artist, it's a sacrifice that I don't mind. I honestly don't notice it too much, but as I said, I am someone who's drawing all the time, so I would prefer to have the Paperlike feel and live with the other cons that come with maybe losing a little of that brightness and saturation like I mentioned earlier. So finally, it's going to come down to personal taste, what you like the look and feel of. For me, I like the iPad with and without Paperlike, but hopefully the next few points give you a little bit more insight into whether this product is right for you or not. Next up, does it improve your drawing? Another super hard question to answer. Personally, for me, yes, it does improve the way I draw on the iPad. As someone who has a background in pencil on paper drawing, I quite like the Paperlike feel and the response you get from it. I noticed that it did improve my line work quite substantially, and it was just a really nice product to have on. As I said, if you're a note taker or a drawer, this could be the exact product you want. And in particular, on the note-taking side of things, I did notice a really big jump in the detail of my notes. I noticed I was able to be a lot more accurate on a lot more regular of a basis, which definitely helped my note-taking ability, and it's something I still notice to this day. Note-taking with Paperlike is absolutely fantastic. Next up, does Paperlike last? This is probably the most asked question I get about Paperlike, and the answer is really quite simple. Yes, it does last, but yes, you do notice wear and tear over time as well. Keep in mind, I'm someone who spends around 2 hours a day drawing on my iPad, so I consider myself quite a heavy user. So when it comes to something like Paperlike, I'm probably going to be on the higher end of usage. For me, I did notice the central area of the iPad where I drew more often than not was what got worn out first. And when I say worn out, it did over time start to slightly lose that paper texture. It still provided some of that, and the sound was still there, but it definitely lessened over time. It was a little bit noticeable when you did move a bit more towards the edges of the iPad where you don't draw all the time, or where I don't. But overall, I highly rate this product. I think it's fantastic, and for me, drawing as much as I do on the iPad, I was actually really happy with how long I got out of my first Paperlike screen protector. I say first because you do get 2 in the pack, which is fantastic for the price. Now let's jump in and have a look at some of the pros of Paperlike. I've already covered a few of these in my previous points, but definitely the sound of drawing on paper is one of the biggest pros, as well as receiving 2 Paperlike screen protectors in the pack. For the price, I think that's pretty fantastic. It allows you to get a really good life out of one order from Paperlike. I went through about 2 Paperlike screen protectors in about a 12-month period. I replaced my first one after about 6 months. I actually really think that is quite fair considering how much I use the product. Another pro for me, again, like I mentioned earlier, was the detail that I was able to get into my notes. I think the paper texture and the feel you get back from it really helped me get a lot of finer detail in certain notes. And it was something that I found really useful, as I do take digital notes all of the time. Another pro for me, which could be in the cons for other people, is the install process. I actually really quite like the Paperlike install process. It is definitely an involved process, but Paperlike do a really good job of outlining that. There's a video that you can watch on their website, and when you receive Paperlike in the mail, everything is laid out really well. It shows you exactly what to do, and I've been able to get Paperlike on correctly each and every time I've installed it. Next up is the cons. This definitely wouldn't be a fair review if I didn't have a look at some of the cons that come along with a product like this. My first con is something I mentioned earlier in this video, and that is the fact that you do get a slight duller picture. As I've already said, I actually don't mind this. I think it's a really fine trade-off. I know Paperlike has worked on this quite heavily over the last couple of years, and this is the newer version of Paperlike they are selling now, and I must admit, it's much better than it used to be. If you're someone who rarely takes notes and draws and you always just watch video content on your iPad, maybe this isn't the right screen protector for you. Another con I think I should mention as well is the fact that it does wear out. Again, for me, this isn't an issue. I think it's really fairly priced and you do get 2 in the pack, but I wanted to bring this up because some people may look at this and say, well, I want a screen protector that's never gonna wear out. Again, this wouldn't be the product for you. This is something that is providing a service. It is a paper-like texture. And again, if you're going to be drawing on that all of the time, there is a pretty fair expectancy that that might wear out. And for my final con, we're just going to talk about the delivery time. I found it a little bit long for my liking. I understand that Paperlike was coming from a long way away from where I live, but it still seemed like quite a long time, a couple of weeks in the end, to get my hands on this product. Overall, it wasn't a huge deal, but it is something I think I should mention. You may have more luck. Yours might arrive really fast, and I really hope it does. But for me, that is definitely going to go in the cons section. And now, as I promised earlier, let's talk about a few tips and tricks that I've picked up over the years to really enhance the Paperlike experience. First tip I have for your Paperlike experience, and something which I think can extend the life of the product for you, is to really try and utilize all areas of the screen. I didn't realize until I started using Paperlike how centralized I am in all of the images that I draw. I tend to move the image around with my fingers and always draw in the same sort of spot. So what I've tried to do over the years is try to adapt where I'm drawing on the screen. So rather than centralizing each image, I might just move out to the edges and work on that piece and then move over to the other edge as well. It's something that's not super hard to implement into your workflow, and it's something that has really extended the Paperlike life for me. My next tip for Paperlike is to please jump on their website and watch the install video. When you first get Paperlike, you're probably going to want to jump straight into it, just give it a crack and try and install it. But I promise you, you will learn so much from that video and you will get a perfect installation if you just follow what they say on that website. I know you might not want to, but it is a little bit of an involved process. So just jump on there, have a look, and I promise you, you'll get it right the first time. Another tip I have for Paperlike is to not press too hard with your Apple Pencil. I think this is something people have the most trouble with when they transition to digital art, and it is definitely something you need to keep an eye on when you are using a product like Paperlike. The iPad and Apple Pencil are fantastic, and they do recognize different amounts of pressure. So there is no need to slam that pencil down on the iPad and press as hard as you can. If you do, you will wear out Paperlike faster than you might like. So just draw like you normally do. Don't be afraid to put a little pressure on there, but really just remember it's just like drawing on paper with a pen or pencil. And my final tip for Paperlike, when you do install that first one on your iPad, is to make sure you put the other one somewhere safe and somewhere that's not going to get too hot. Keep it in the Paperlike packaging they send you, but don't keep it anywhere too hot, or you might find that heat could ruin that product. Keep it nice and dry and maybe in a cupboard somewhere, and you'll be able to use that second one when the time calls for it. And that does it for today's video on Paperlike. Thank you so much for joining me. I really hope you get out there, have a look at Paperlike and try it out for yourself. I really do highly rate it. It's a fantastic product and it definitely helps me in my everyday life as a digital artist. In no way is this video sponsored at all. I just wanted to share my thoughts, my tips, my tricks, my pros and my cons about a product that I use every single day. If you like this video and you want to get more tips, tricks and tutorials on digital art and so much more, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell to get notified when new videos go up. Thanks for watching.